This is Marriage on the Half Shell, Raw and Exposed. All right, before we start tonight, I just want to throw out that if you have questions or comments, or if you just want to let us know what you're thinking, you can do that at marriageonthehalfshell@gmail.com. That's our email address for our podcast. So send us stuff, send us questions you have, send us articles you've read, send us, anything you want over that email address.
Send us stories about your marriage.
Sure, yeah. We'd
or your dating experience.
Sure.
We'd love to hear about it, and maybe we'll talk about it.
Yes.
All right.
Tonight's topic is romance.
Romance.
And we are big believers in romance.
Yep.
Even though we've been married 32 years. A lot of couples that have been married as long as we have thought that romance was a thing of the past.
I think, well, I know what you're saying, but I think people who make it 30 to 40 to 50 years generally know that romance is a big thing.
It needs to be, yeah.
Yeah. But I think we're going to find out that it's not exactly what you think.
It's what is this? What is the saying? Romance. I don't think that word means what you think it means. That I'm trying to quote The Princess Bride, but that's exactly that's why we're doing this.
You're more tipsy than I am.
Nah, I'm not. Okay, so you had something you wanted to start with that we were kind of going over the notes a couple of days ago, and what are we going to discuss? And we try to keep it kind of loose so that we can have kind of a more spontaneous conversation when we do this. But you said something that was really funny. And, okay, just a heads up, we've said it before, there's no love lost between us and Disney. We are not lovers of the Disney. We're not lovers of the mouse. We've never been to Disneyland, Disney World, have no plans to go. I think that Disney has done more harm than good, and that's all I'm going to say about that.
But Disney, if you want to sponsor us, we're open to that.
No, we're not.
I'm kidding.
No.
All right. So I was just thinking about
the way they portray it.
And the way it is portrayed in Disney movies, specifically the princess movies, Prince and Princess generally, or the Prince and Snow White, who wasn't a princess, but whatever. You know what I'm talking about. And I thought, it's like, what is it actually like? Mm-hmm. Because in the movie, there's music, and they ride off into the sunset on a horse or whatever.
Yeah.
And in real life, can you just imagine? I thought, let's just imagine what it's really like, right? There's no music. Everybody, the dwarves have given what is it? What's her name? Snow White has given a kiss to all the dwarves. I watched a review about the ridiculousness of Snow White,
okay.
But and then they ride off. And there's no music, right?
Yeah.
So you're just sitting there on this horse going clop, 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 de clop, de clop, de clop, right? And then what?
Yeah.
Right? Cinderella and the prince, right? What happens? Even, and I mentioned Tangled, right?
Right.
Tangled with this big adventure that they went through, but after the adventure's over, it's just like, well, what do we do next?
Yeah.
Right?
Because life has to go...
Because there's no music.
No, but life has to go back to normal. We have to get back to, our everyday lives.
Sure.
But there still has to be romance.
Right. So it's like... It's almost like the rest of your marriage is like just riding on that horse.
Yeah.
Away from the excitement that you just had, the adventure that you just
the
had.
Wedding you just had,
wedding,
or the whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
The honeymoon.
The adventure.
You're riding away from it. And it doesn't mean you're not going to have more adventures.
Sure.
Right? But I think most of life is just like what the police say, right? It's 98% boring and waiting around and 2% exciting and getting shot at, right? So that's the adventure in marriage.
Yeah.
So kids are an adventure, but that's not right.
Yeah.
So I'm just getting at most of life and most of marriage is not, you don't have background music, you're not in the midst of this great thing, and you are just clopping along.
Yeah.
Or doing your thing, right?
Right.
You're going to figure out who does what and who's going to work and whether you both go to work and who does the chores at home and all that stuff.
Right.
Right? I mean, so I just thought I wanted to point that out at the beginning because we're going to talk about what makes your marriage stay alive.
Right.
After the music ends.
And you're just clippity-clopping
And you're
along.
clippity-clopping along on this horse. Okay.
So, we are going to be making a lot of references tonight to, again, Dr. Peterson's new book, Beyond Order. He has a whole chapter devoted to keeping the romance alive in your marriage. And when we were going over this chapter again, the thing that I realized that I guess I think this is the third time I've read this particular chapter. It has more to do with walking out the day-to-day stuff and how the romance is something that you have to work at.
Well, it's something you own.
Yeah.
It's on you.
Yes. So when you start dating, we did discuss this. When you start dating, romance is easy.
Can be.
Right? It can be. You're trying to win this person over. Hopefully to get married, not for other reasons. But you're hopefully trying to win this person over to eventually make the commitment, right?
Yeah. I mean,
so the romance is easy. What is it? It's flowers, it's chocolates, it's date nights, it's, romantic walks in a park. It's, all of these things, right? So, but after you get married, of course, you should keep dating. We've discussed that before.
Yeah.
And we will go into that in a little bit here. But whatever the face of romance is going to change after you get married because now you're going clippity-clop on that horse and you're riding away from all the excitement. So now you actually have to communicate. You have to now's your journey in learning how to trust each other, right? And romance is going to look different after you've been married a few years than it was in the beginning. And it's not that the guy shouldn't continue to buy his wife flowers or buy her chocolates, or if that's what she wants, if that's what romance still looks like to her, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that
love notes are important.
That's the key.
All of those things, but
yeah, I mean, that's the key of what you're saying is, what does romance look for your spouse?
Yeah.
Right, and it's not just guys. But it's a two-way street, right? You romance each other, and you keep doing it.
Yeah. But it changes,
and it will change, and depending on seasons and preferences. I mean,
right.
As you get older and you've been together a long time, and or if you had kids, I mean, there's just different things come up and become more important than other things.
Right.
So in the beginning, it's always the easy stuff.
Sure.
Like you said, like buying the little gifts or whatever, and I don't know if most guys like getting little gifts, but it's less likely.
Right.
But you got to kind of start to figure each other out as you're dating or whatever. But once you get married, then you really need to figure each other out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so one of the major points in Dr. Peterson's chapter here was building trust with your spouse, and the romance can feed from that. And what he means by that is you've got to be able to communicate what you want. You've got to be able to tell your spouse what you want. You used to buy me flowers more often than you do now. But you know that's not really on my list of priorities at this point.
Right.
It's like having a vase full of flowers is nice, but honestly, it's going to take up space on my countertop that I might use for cooking. And you know that what's going to happen? They're going to die. They're just going to sit there and wither and die. Because I'm not real good with the plant life. I'm just not.
Well.
So,
So they're more for special occasions.
Yes, it is a nice gesture from time to time, and I do appreciate it. But I don't need that constantly anymore, right?
Sure.
So you've got to be able to... This is where communication comes in. You've got to be able to communicate to your spouse what it is that you want in this area. Like, what is a romantic gesture to you, and then your spouse needs to be able to reciprocate.
And say the same thing.
Yes. So this is something that Dr. Peterson calls domestic economy, where you're spending... He says it should be a minimum of 90 minutes a week talking about day-to-day stuff. And I think we brought this up in another podcast where you're talking about who's going to go where, who's going to do what, who's going to run the kids to their soccer game or their ballet lessons, or and who's going to cook dinner, and who's going to be home when, and who's going to run the kids to school. This kind of thing. It all has to be discussed, right?
Right. Well, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm hearing is this is the day-to-day logistics of running your home together.
Yeah.
Right? And we're talking about I don't want to take a tangent, but it's more of an egalitarian kind of thing where you both together decide what to do.
Yeah.
And who's going to do what. And maybe that changes over time, but right? It's each week you sit down and talk through the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that may be what, I don't want to say what issues you're having, but and though you might cover that too, but more like, hey, I really appreciate the fact that you bring me flowers.
Yeah.
But it'd be better if you did this.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're
or that.
Yeah, right. And you both have to be willing to listen to each other, and not get butt hurt if the thing you didn't go over like you wanted it to, right?
Yeah. I mean, we should appreciate everything, but at the same time, we should, like you said earlier, we should be able to communicate what really means something to us,
right,
to each other, right? So I can tell you what means something to me, and then you can tell me the same thing, and then we can start doing that instead, and build that
the trust.
The trust, right? I drew out a thing before we go too much further.
Mm-hmm.
When we thought about, we may read this quote later, but I thought, why do we need to be romanced, right? And and part of it has to do with desire, and we need to feel like this other person wants us to be in their life, and so on, right? But what is that sitting on top of? So it's kind of like layers,
right?
So what is that sitting on? Like, I want to be desired by my husband, or I want to be desired by my wife. I don't want them. Obviously, we don't want to be looking elsewhere,
right,
for this sort of thing. just for a fling or for excitement or whatever, because you can have plenty of that in your marriage, as we've experienced. Mm-hmm. So, but what does it really mean, right? So I thought anyway, that when I desire you, it helps you to feel safe and secure, that I'm with you. I consider myself yours and you're mine. And,
right.
And we have this strong bond, and we're not playing around with it mm-hmm. and messing it up
right.
by doing dumb things. Or even if I don't like go out and find somebody else, it's like if I'm indifferent to you, how does that make you feel? Right. That you're going to feel less secure, and so on. So there's a big thing that we have as human beings about security and safety and so on. And we can go do adventures and do dangerous things if we have this foundation of security and safety with each other.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I can.
But if you want to
I
go
can
to
read
that
this
already,
yeah.
we can.
No, continue if you need to continue.
No, I'm done. But you can.
Okay, so why is truth important in romance? And I'm just going to read a quote from the book here, and we will put the book in the show notes.
I'll put a link in it. Yeah, in the show notes.
Here I am, 100% recommending Jordan Peterson's books, both of them, right? But this is a quote from the chapter that we're discussing here.
Page 272.
Yes. If you tell your partner the truth and you strive to act so that you can tell the truth about how you act, then you have someone to rely on when the seas become high and your ship threatens to founder. This can literally be a matter of life or death. In a relationship where romance remains intact, truth must be king. So we've been through this. We've been through our ship threatening to founder before.
Yeah, we have.
It's because we've been married a long time. We've been through a lot of stuff, and I will tell you right now that there was a period of time there where I wasn't interested in you romancing me. I wanted you to leave me alone, and that's when you started to fight. Not fight with me, but fight to save our marriage. And I had to wake up to it and recognize that that's what you were doing. So, before we both get choked up talking about that. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So, we've done a podcast on gratefulness as well, and I recommend you go back and listen to that one because it really is about recognizing the little things that your spouse does on a day-to-day basis. And this is like, I'm going to get into the nitty-gritty here about romance and what it should look like rather than the Disney-fied version.
Yeah.
Because Disney lies to all of us. We should just wake up and realize that.
It's not like those sorts of things are bad, but they're shallow.
They're very shallow.
So do them.
Sure.
Flowers or chocolate or
buying your lady some glass slippers and putting her in a pumpkin coach and driving off there. Sure, go ahead.
Once every 18 years.
Sure, go ahead and do that.
Sure, if you want. But
if that's what she wants, that's what we're discussing.
But that's not really what
no
romance is about.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, when we discussed the gratefulness issue, we talked about being grateful for every little thing your spouse does. And so I'm going to tie that one into this one a little bit here, because romantic gestures can be those little things that your spouse does for you on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at right now, which is why I don't need flowers and chocolates and all that kind of stuff, because I recognize the little things that you do for me all the time. And I consider them all to be romantic gestures. Some of them are bigger, and some of them are smaller, right?
Yeah.
Like a big romantic gesture was when you took me away last winter to go play in the snow for 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was huge for me. Like, I'm still living off of that kind of, you know, but.
And one for me is like when I bought that boat home. Well, you knew I was going to do it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't expensive, right? We got to work on it, blah, blah, blah. But it's like we have always talked about, you know, as once we've got the place that we're living in now, and then we're going to work on our finances some more, and then we're going to get this dog, and then we're going to get the boat. And we got the boat first because the opportunity came up, and you're cool with that.
Yeah.
And you know, so that can be a romantic gesture toward me. I mean,
but those are big. What you need to do is recognize the little things that your spouse does for you every day, and also attribute those to romantic gestures. Okay.
Sure. Like you massage my back when I kind of messed it up working out, and it still hurts, but you know you're willing to do that.
Yeah. If I'm having a bad day, or if I have a headache, or you know, if I've worn myself out, you'll make dinner.
Yeah.
Or, you know, you'll go in the kitchen spontaneously and just clean up the kitchen for me and start the dishwasher. Okay, that doesn't sound romantic. Not in the worldly, you know, like...
In the Disney sense.
Not in the Disney sense, right? It doesn't sound romantic, but to me it is. It means a lot, you know? If I take the laundry downstairs and I forget to start it before I go to the gym and you throw the laundry in the washer, that's a romantic gesture to me. You just saved me having to start it when I get home, which sometimes isn't until 12:30.
Yeah.
You know, I'm halfway through the day.
Right. And even though you could do that very easily, it's just because I recognize that it should be done and did it.
Right.
Then it helps you see that I'm caring for you. I think a lot of romantic gestures, if you say, are just the little things where we care for each other.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yes.
Okay. So we wrote down, I mean, with that quote, you talked about truth, and we threw that in there. Truth and romance. So it has to do with trust and security. We already mentioned that. So part of it was we need to talk to each other about what romance means to us. Yeah. And I think I would mention to younger couples, I think you need to get rid of this is why we bring up Disney, get rid of the mindset that you have about or that you've learned from media, right? Disney movies or other movies. Yeah. Rom-coms.
Hollywood lies. Well, they lie.
They present a certain picture.
Yes.
And it's like a little bit of truth in there, but it doesn't, it's all so shallow. And that's, I think that's what the biggest thing. Right. It's just shallow, right? So get rid of that for a while. That doesn't mean you can't do those things. We've already said that. But get rid of that for a while and figure out, it's like, what does it mean for you, for someone to show you love? And they're doing gestures, I guess, of romance, right?
And some of that could be, I mean, I don't want to go too much into this, but what's your love language? You know, there's that book that's been out there for whatever called, you know, the 5 love languages or whatever it is. But I mean, it does feed. It
tries. I get it that it tries to, and we're not going to include that in the show notes.
No, you can go find it. Go look for it.
Whatever. But I guess it tries to quantify the different things that everybody enjoys or desires.
Sure.
Right. So if you do this thing or that thing or the other thing, then I feel loved, right? And that if it's falls in this category, then it's this love language, and if it falls in the other category, it's another love language. So that's okay.
Okay, there
use
is
it
some,
as a tool.
Okay, yeah, it's
right?
a tool,
That's cool.
but that's what I'm saying. But there is some little bit of truth to it. I mean,
enough.
I've taken that quiz a couple times, and one time it came back physical touch, and my kids laughed at me, and they were like, "No, Mom." It's definitely not that.
That's more me than you.
Yeah, it really is, because mine would be acts of service.
Acts of service.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you do the dishes for me, and if you so I'm not saying you have to do everything for me, but that's what makes me feel loved is when you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And since I'm able, I mean, this is something that not everybody can do, but since I can work from home, it's like whenever I walk through the kitchen and I'm going to put something in the dishwasher that I used, I'll look in the sink and put everything else in there, because it only takes me 30 seconds to do it. I mean, come on.
It would only take the children 30 seconds too.
Well, we came home from the beach today and we found the door standing wide open because one of the children came in and then came back out. It's like, well, you know what? There isn't an automatic closer on this door. We love you, kids. But anyway, so anyway, I'm able to do that, and I could do it even if I worked somewhere, and I could do it in the evening, and just kind of, it doesn't take that long to throw stuff in the dishwasher.
Right. And for you, I mean, every time I walk through your office, which is multiple times a day, because it's just, I walk through there to get to the family room or to go upstairs, I'll run my fingers across your back, or I'll stop and I'll give you a kiss, or, ask you how you're doing, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because I know that means something to you. We're maintaining our connection.
Yeah.
Even though you're working.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're able to do that, but that's why people might text each other.
Yeah.
And understand that you can text somebody and just an example, right? Text somebody, say I love you or whatever, and they may not get back to you right away because they're in the middle of something, right? If they're not there, we have a unique situation where I work from home, but
right,
if I worked somewhere else, then you could text me, and then we maintain that connection through there, and then I'll eventually answer you. I'm going to say get to you, but if I'm in the middle of a meeting, I couldn't do that. Or if you're in the middle of installing a pipe, or whatever. I mean, whatever you're doing.
Okay. Well, I think the point we're trying to make is this is where we're at right now. Right.
But it's not.
But it was different when we were in the throes of having babies, and we had babies, they're toddlers, and and now I'm pregnant again, and we've got toddlers and preschoolers. I mean, we've been in that situation where we've got multiple kids,
right?
And then the romance looked different then too. It was not what it is now. Yeah. So I think the point we're trying to make is it's going to change.
Yeah.
From the day you get married to 5 years from then, whether you have kids or not, you still got to figure out who is doing what in the house. You still got to have that communication, and you've got to be able to tell each other the truth.
Yep.
And, this is what I need from you right now.
Yeah.
And you've got to be able to trust your spouse that they're going to step up, right?
Yeah.
I think that's so.
It's almost like romance grows. I mean, we want to do it consciously.
Yeah.
I don't want to ignore that. Right? So there are conscious acts that we do that are outside of the norm, but a lot of romance grows out of living together and finding out what the other person needs and fulfilling it.
Yeah.
Right? So what do you need? And you figure out what I need, and we fulfill each other's needs.
I don't know if I would put it quite that way.
Okay. How would you put
I
it?
don't fulfill your needs.
Depends on what we're talking about.
Yeah. I know. I get that, but you shouldn't be depending on another human being to fulfill all your needs.
I agree with that.
Let's.
That's not what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. I think
Okay.
it's more of we're a team now. We're one, right? Because when you get married, you become, in a sense, you become one entity where there are two people inside of it, but you're one entity, and you work together, and you try to figure out how to agree on things and how you're going to handle things together.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
All right. I don't know if we actually answered the question, but go ahead. Do you have a quote or?
I'm sorry. I'm still reading here.
Well, just read the quote.
No, I don't have one yet.
Okay. So we're going to go to Jordan Peterson's book again, page 268.
Okay.
And there's some highlights there so that you notated. So go ahead and read those.
Okay. Why would you possibly assume that something as complex as maintaining a marriage could be managed without commitment, practice, and effort? Now, those three words don't sound romantic.
No.
But
they don't.
This is the build up in the chapter 2. He gets at the end of the chapter, he talks about, okay, now we'll talk about romance. Because if you don't have those three things, if you're not putting effort into finding out what your spouse needs from you, if you're not practicing little gestures on a day-to-day basis, if you're not maintaining your commitment, then you know what? If you don't have romance, this all leads to romance, right?
Yeah, I think maybe that's what I was getting to.
Right. So
before.
But if you don't have romance, you're roommates. You're basically roommates. You're roommates that have sex on occasion.
Right.
And the sex will become mechanical and mundane and, the fire won't be fed.
Right.
Yes.
And I think that's when, you're together and you live in the same house and you have sex on occasion and, so you're kind of playing the part of husband and wife, but you're not really being a husband and wife.
Right.
So this is what we're getting at is you want to go beyond just the surface things, right? And I'll tell you, sex generally without a deep commitment is just a surface thing. It's just physical.
Yeah.
Right? It can be more than that, but I think
it should be more than that.
It should be more than that, but in today's society, it's just become this physical act without any kind of real meaning
the hookup
behind
culture and all of these.
And we won't go too deep. into that,
No.
But I think that's how we get there. How a lot of people get there is they're not really thinking commitment.
Yeah.
And deep commitment, deep care,
right?
Love for one another, trust. So romance grows out of the foundational things, and those are a few of them that you mentioned there.
Right.
Quote.
Okay, so this is another really good quote. It's on the next page here.
Yep.
For each person is, in truth, an unfathomable enigma. With care, you might keep rediscovering in the person you have chosen enough residual mystery to maintain the spirit that first brought you together. And I really think that what he's trying to say here is the person that you married in 30 years will not be the same person.
True. I mean, I think there's two parts to that. One is we change as humans as we go forward in life. So
if you're growing,
if we're growing, we're becoming different people.
Yeah.
But also, the other part of that is you haven't really learned everything about your spouse.
No.
Right. So there's always something new to discover.
Right.
Right. And then, of course, and then, as it says, in the midst of that, you're also growing and changing. So, I mean, we go through a lot of experiences where we don't know what we're going to do. That's the beauty of, for instance, when you have children, it's like nobody tells you how to raise a kid.
You can read all the books you want.
Read about it. You can take classes, and there are certainly certain things that you should do and practice and think about and figure out, right? But the point is that you're not required to do that, right? You need to go do it on your own, and there's a reason that you want to raise your kid, and you do it, or your kids, and you do it together. And we won't go into all the stuff about kids benefit more from.
We're going to do a whole other podcast on parenting.
Totally new episode.
We will. Yep.
So yeah, we'll get to that. But the point is that it's this adventure, right?
Right.
And you can look at it like that, and you say, "Well, I've got to go learn some stuff to deal with this because I've got this little human being that's totally dependent on me, right, or on us."
Yep.
Right? It's both of you, not just one of you. And you got to go figure it out, right?
Yeah.
So that's part of the adventure, right? And then you conquer the unknown, right? But we've never, required a license to have a child, right? Or whatever. Okay? So, because you're supposed to go figure it out.
Okay, but this also is addressing the issue, but it's like what I said. Yeah. The person I was when we got married is not the person I am now, 30-something years later.
I totally agree.
Yes. And you as well.
Yeah, we've both changed, definitely.
Yes. And thank God.
Yes,
that's
true.
I don't like who I was at 20. You know, not anymore,
gotten
right?
Better at whatever
I hope.
Need to be doing. We're not perfect,
no,
but we've gotten better, and we can look back and say, "I wish I'd known this back then."
Oh, we have that discussion we've had that discussion quite a few times. You know, if I could go back now and relive my 20s, what would I do different? You know, that's a discussion we have. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to read something else here. Okay. That is what happens when two people fall under the spell of love. Yes, that does sound Disneyfied, but I understand what he's trying to say. For a while, both become better than they were and see that. But then the magic fades away. And we're talking about now you're on the horse going clippity-clop, and now what do we do? Right?
There's no music.
There's no music.
You're clippity-clopping away on this horse.
Yeah. Both receive that experience as a gift, and you should. Both have their eyes open and can see what is visible to no one else. Such love is a glimpse of what could be if the relationship remained true. It is delivered as a gift initially from fate or God, but requires tremendous effort to realize and maintain. And once that is understood, the goal is clear.
So
the goal is to maintain the romance. But it's going to look different, and you have to understand that.
Yeah. But it's something you have to find.
Couple, right? It does take tremendous effort to realize and maintain.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So one thing that we've always done, and we've discussed this before, is our date nights, right?
Yeah.
This is actually our date night right now.
One of them. We don't always do this on.
We don't always do this on date night, but occasionally our date night turns into a podcast night, right?
Right.
But we also spent most of the day together.
Yeah.
Right? We went to the beach today and we hung out, and then we came home and we made dinner together and did some other prep work for we always have a big breakfast on Saturday morning together. So we did some of that together, and we sat down and we had a meal, and now we do most of our podcasting from our bedroom now because our children know not to bother us up here.
And it echoes less, so it sounds better.
Yeah.
Not perfect, but
But we understand the effort that it takes, right?
Yeah.
But our date night has been one of those things that we've practiced our entire married life.
That's true. I mean,
and we've spent a lot of money when our girls were little, when the older girls were little.
Well, yeah, it's finding out, the foundation of this is, figure out what, if you need to sacrifice something to pay a babysitter, then it's better to do that and get out and just spend an hour or two together.
Some of our days have just been an hour or two out by ourselves.
You don't have to spend a lot of money on the date itself. Maybe the babysitter costs more than the date, but it's something that you figure out how to do between the two of you, and then you go do different things.
Well, and honestly, this whole podcast thing started, we had been discussing it for a while, but it kind of started because of COVID. It's like, well, kind of. I mean, all of a sudden, everything's closed. So we can't go anywhere on our dates.
Yeah.
So now we're having our date nights at home.
Right.
And it kind of grew on us a little bit.
Well, we realized, once the kids have grown up.
Yeah. Obviously.
For you, it might be, we don't have kids, or it might be the kids are in bed, so what are we going to do?
Yeah.
So instead of sitting in front of the TV, and just wasting your brain, spending some time together.
Yeah.
Right? So, and for us, the kids are, all independent. They're out doing their own thing. So we can make dinner at home together and then have it together, and then we go do whatever we're going to do. Right? Sometimes it's talk about this, like this episode, or we watch a movie, or we play a game, or we just have discussions.
Last Friday, we were so tired, we just did a puzzle together, and then I think we watched a movie or something.
Yeah, we worked on a puzzle. And, sometimes we have deep discussions, and sometimes we're just putting our puzzle together, right?
But sounds real like Disney movie, doesn't it? Like, can't you just picture the prince and Cinderella sitting at a table doing a puzzle together?
Think about that. Or Snow White. You go from having your heart cut out, maybe, to, let's put together a puzzle.
Yeah, yep.
So, and then, I think we've discovered that a lot of interesting discussions come out of just doing that. It's like we don't plan it, but we start, we're just going to find the pieces, and then we start talking about the puzzle itself, or we play a card game and we talk about memories, or, who knows? I mean, lots of things come up, but I think it really kind of comes down to just spending time together and being willing to talk and be truthful, be open.
Yeah.
Because, with your spouse, you shouldn't have to hide anything.
You shouldn't hide anything.
And you shouldn't hide anything. So just, just talk. And if something needs to change, then talk about it. There are ways to do it, right? Never be accusatory, but just talk about things. So that becomes a romantic thing because you are working on your relationship. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so what are you looking at now?
I'm just, you have other page numbers here.
Let's go for it. Page 300.
You might ask yourself, okay, I'm not
I'm trying
to figure out where that, because I just read something here that I like.
Well, read what you like.
All right. Let's see. Try having an affair with your wife or husband.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe the latter can set up the bedroom while the former is preparing. Okay.
What?
Okay. He's talking about candles and, like music and things like that. Like, I mean, those are still romantic things, right?
Sure. But
you're doing this with your spouse, right?
Okay.
And maybe the two of you will not get old, fat, unhealthy, and Okay.
What?
As fast as possible, just to spite each other, which many couples certainly do.
Okay.
If you invest in your romance, right? If you're invested in your relationship, if you've invested the commitment, you're putting the effort in, then letting yourself go is not going to be what you want to do. And that's we're certainly there.
Yeah.
Right?
Not saying we've let ourselves go.
No.
We're trying to be the opposite.
And then maybe you could both have what you need and maybe even what you want. But you have to be willing to admit your desires, and you have to negotiate with your partner. What do you like? What does she like? And what are you going to let each other know? Are you going to risk practicing badly?
Yeah.
Right? Are you going to learn some new tricks even if you feel like a fool when you first try?
Like dancing.
Sure. Oh, yeah, that's a good one. I mean, no. I mean, we took swing dancing lessons a number of years ago, and neither one of us were great at it, right?
I'm not saying we're great at it now.
No, but I mean, you were pretty stiff. You were pretty focused on counting, and you weren't moving spontaneously with the music. There's just something changed 2 years ago.
It took time to get I don't want to say, part of its muscle memory. It took time. And but that brings this feeling of comfort that, okay, I can do this move.
Yeah.
And I start to have more fun with it.
Right.
I think that was part of it.
Right.
2 years ago when we were taking lessons again.
Yeah. But it was just lessons for us. When we took lessons years ago, it was with the girls and
with the kids,
just trying to help them.
But it was a big class, and then it just started. Something clicked, if you will. But
I remember when that happened.
I had to be willing to keep working at it, and I think a lot of life is being willing to fail most of the time.
Yeah.
Right? Because you keep trying something and it doesn't work, and you try again and it doesn't work, and you keep going until you get it. I mean, I think that's really a lot of things, that I think kids get more. I don't know. I think they learn that better than adults because I don't know what's in my head. Doing karate, for instance, and you keep trying and you keep trying and you keep trying until you finally get that muscle memory.
Okay.
Or you know how to respond to something, and dancing is the same way, right? It's what am I going to do next, and I've got to figure this out, and what's the move, and how am I going to signal it, and there's a lot of technical things, but once you do it a number of times, then you begin to enjoy the experience of actually doing it, and you worry less about how am I going to count this out and all the technical things, and you just do it,
right? Because
you've done it so many times.
Well, and I have this. You and I were just taking dance lessons together, and it was just for fun. And It was at a local coffee shop.
Yeah.
And this was 2 years ago, before all this nonsense started happening. When people were still allowed to be around each other, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember when it clicked for you. So this dance class would be 2 hours long, right?
Yep.
And the first hour he would spend teaching us the moves, and he'd have us switch partners. Like we'd go around and we'd switch partners, right?
Yep.
And we were supposed to do it for the whole 2-hour class.
Switch partners?
Yes.
Yeah.
But you stepped in and said, "This is our date night. I'm dancing with my wife."
Yeah, the second half.
The second half of the class.
Every class.
And I remember that class in particular because you said that to him. You were like, "I'm not switching anymore. This is my wife and this is our date night." And I remember that's when the whole class kind of switched into that mode. Everybody was doing it the way we were. And he actually would say, "Okay, we're kind of past the lesson part now. I know that some of you are on your date nights, and if you just want to dance with the person you came with or your spouse, that's perfectly fine with me." You kind of changed the whole...
I didn't realize that I did.
Yeah, you did, because every class we took after that, he made a point of saying that.
Yeah.
Okay, we're past the lesson part now. If you just want to dance with your spouse or the person you brought, then, that's fine with me. I don't care.
Yeah.
But I just remember when I felt like you started to feel the beat of the music, and you started to feel the rhythm, and you just kind of, I felt like you weren't afraid of making a fool of yourself anymore, I guess is the right way to put it.
Well,
you weren't like, "Oh, if I make a mistake," it's like, "No, we're going to make mistakes." I'm here with you, and I'm going to dance with you. And we practice quite a bit now.
Yeah. We're in our knees down.
Well, yeah, when we can get around our old age injuries, we've got one of our kids is getting married in a couple of months, and so we've been putting some time into practicing some moves so we can dance at her wedding. We want to dance at her wedding. So, but it took effort, it took time, it took communication, commitment to keep doing it. Yeah. It took all of that. And even now, we're still not great at it.
True.
But you know what? We have fun. And we like dancing together.
And that's the point. It's about the fun for us.
Yeah.
It's about the fun, not being great dancers. I don't care. I'm not in a competition.
No.
Right? But that, I think, I want to step out here and say, I think for you, getting back to romance, that was my commitment to trying to figure this out and get to a point where we could have fun together was romantic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? It wasn't buying you stuff.
Those dance lessons were free except for the coffee or whatever it was.
Yeah, but it wasn't buying you stuff. It was spending time together.
Yeah.
And focusing on you and you focusing on me. And
there has to be a certain amount of real communication between a couple that's dancing together.
Yeah, and we had to learn how to signal without talking.
Yeah, we had to learn how to communicate on yet another level after 30 years of being married.
Right.
I think we need to probably wrap this one up.
Mm-hmm.
We've already gone a little longer than I thought we were going to go.
Well, we had examples. So what does romance look like? And I think you wanted to read a couple quotes. And then,
yes.
And we've kind of talked a little bit about what it looks like. But go ahead and with your quotes.
Okay. Do not be naive, and do not expect the beauty of love to maintain itself without an all-out effort on your part.
Right.
So romance requires work, and you don't usually put those two words together.
Yeah.
Right? You think romance is easy and it should just come naturally and all of those. But
it's the feelings, and we've talked about this before, where what you see in media today it's just easy. It's just feelings.
But that's Hollywood. That's
or it's media, whatever.
It's media, you know.
It's what your buddies taught you in school.
Okay, it's also those disgusting romance novels.
Romance
it's all
novels. It's all that
those
crap.
things are just. It's all lies. It's all lies. And if you've been married for any amount of time, you know that.
Yeah.
You know that it's lies.
True.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Decide what you need to keep yourself satisfied, both in bed and out of it. And maybe, just maybe, you'll maintain the love of your life, and you will have a friend and a confidant, and this cold rock we live on at the far end of the cosmos will be a little warmer and more comforting than it would otherwise be.
Okay.
I think that's a good place to end right there.
Why would we end there?
So, you've got to decide what you want, and you have to communicate it, and you have to be truthful with your spouse.
Yep. And romance can be a lot of different things.
Yes.
And it's not just the stuff that media says. It's what you communicate with each other. You spend time with each other.
Yes.
To figure out each other. Really, it's learning about each other, just like it was when you were dating before you got married. Mm-hmm. And you get married. That doesn't mean you stop dating.
No, definitely.
And I'm not just talking about date night, but I'm talking about pursuit.
Yes.
Right? Where you pursue each other. You see something in each other that you want, and you pursue it.
Yeah.
And part of that is sharing the truth about what you feel and what you want and what you need. And the other part is listening to the other person and hearing what they want and need and desire. And so, and then you figure out together how to make it happen for each other.
Yeah. Yep.
And sometimes it's tough. Nobody says anything's easy. We've gone 32 years, and we've really done a lot of work and tried to grow consciously, and we've studied and we've figured things out, and we try to figure each other out, and we've helped each other through things from our past, and we've helped each other grow, and we continue to do that, and it's not going to end now because it's not like we've reached some pinnacle.
Right.
So,
I mean, the name of this chapter is Plan and Work Diligently to Maintain the Romance in Your Relationship. And I think that's exactly what we're saying.
Yeah.
You have to plan, you have to talk, you have to tell the truth, and you have to work at it.
Yeah.
This is not going to just come easily to any couple ever.
Right. So, throw away your concept of what the media has taught you or what other people have taught you about what romance is. And
ladies, burn those romance novels. They're nothing but nonsense. I have to say it.
Go ahead, say it.
I just did. I quit reading romance novels when I was 18, and I've never really gone back.
Yeah. Well, we obviously don't recommend burning books in general. But I suppose trash like that
might be good for starting a fire in the fireplace.
Yeah. So, because it's misinformation, it's untruth.
Yeah.
It leads you down a path of expectations that
can never be met, for God's sake.
Never be met.
They can never be met.
Yeah, and it's all about feelings, but you know, we've said before, it's like when you do things right, when you've, and I'm not talking about perfect, but when you go down the right path and you work on your relationship, then those feelings will come, right?
Yeah.
They'll happen, but it's not just going to happen if you focus on the feelings. It's one of those things where, you know, if you chase the feeling, you'll never get it.
Yeah.
Right? But if you chase the foundation, then you'll get both the foundation and the feeling.
Yeah.
That's a weird way of saying it, but anyway, are we done?
I think we've covered this one.
All right.
Yes.
I don't know if we've covered it completely, but
no,
you know what? Get across the concept.
With the concept, because this is something where you have to sit down with your spouse and figure it out. You've got to figure it out.
You've got to figure it out for yourself as a couple.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, and a lot of things in life are like that. You know, follow the principle, not the prescribed rule.
Yeah.
Because you're unique.
Yeah.
Anyway, so as we said earlier, contact us.
Yes.
With questions or comments at marriageonthehalfshell@gmail.com.
And we are also
to hear from you.
Yes, and we're also going to be posting these podcasts to YouTube. Starting in the next couple of weeks.
They're not video. They're just
no, they are not. You don't want to. You don't want to look at us sitting in our bed chatting with each other.
Not yet. I mean, maybe one day we'll go to actual video of us.
It's possible.
But right now, it's just the picture.
It's audio only on audio. Yes.
So like, share, whatever. Tell your friends. Tell somebody that may benefit from this, and we hope that we'll hear from you and be able to maybe include some of that and branch out. Who knows? We've got plenty of subjects that we want to cover, but what do you want to hear?
Right.
And then we'll take it from there.
Yep. So thank you for listening, and we hope you have a great evening. Go romance your spouse.
This is
Marriage on the Half Shell.
Yeah, that's it. Bye.
Bye.